All right, good morning, everyone, and give me just a moment. We're almost there. Um, it seems like everything's been a little on the slow side lately, but we get there. But anyway, hey, everybody, if you're watching from YouTube or from Facebook, I want to welcome you to the broadcast and thank you so much for being on. We really appreciate all of you for watching. And back with me today is Apostle Katt Thompson, and we are talking about a powerful subject. But let me say this, not only do I want to welcome you to World Bible School Media, but each week on this broadcast, we bring you teachings or concepts which are often beyond what is considered normal in Christian conversation so that we can discover more of the eternal Christ who is within us, even from before the foundation of the universe. Good morning, Apostle Katt. How you doing? You are muted.
Wow. I kept touching the phone. It wouldn't let me do anything. I'm
Well,
great. I'm great.
can
Technical
can you hear me?
difficulties
Okay,
aside. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can very well.
Awesome. Awesome.
Good morning, Dr. Kay Fairchild. Glad to have you in the chat room. Um, so this is unfortunately our final week in this topic. We've been talking about lead from love. We've been dealing with leadership, and that's a that's a touchy subject to deal with because, and I can think of other subjects that are more touchy, but just because that leaders feel like as long as they're in charge, everything's going fine. But in reality, I much more prefer for Holy Spirit to be in charge and to follow His lead because He is our helper and He leads us and guides us into all truth. In week one, we examined the contrast leading from wrath versus leading from love. In week two, we examined this thought, the power of love centered leadership. That's very powerful. Today, we're going to look at transforming leadership, becoming a reflection of Christ's love. And let me give you a couple of scriptures that we're going to talk about today, at least to start, and then we'll go on from there. But looking here in John 13, verse 34 to 35, and we're looking at the Passion Translation, um, 34 to 35, and I have verse 3 and 4 up there, so we can't do that. Um, I'll have to grab 34 and 35 real quick. 34, there it is, add it, and 35, add it, go back to 34. Okay, all right. Okay, so I see it changing on Facebook. Here's what it says: John 13, verse 34, the Passion Translation, second entry on your screen. So I give you now a new commandment. And when I study this, what I read into this is that this is a commandment that supersedes all other commandments. Even when Jesus said, I give you two new commandments, he said to love God with all your heart, mind, soul, and strength. And the second is to love your neighbors yourself. In reality, this supersedes that. He says, I give you a new commandment. Love each other just as much as I have loved you. And verse 15. We're not looking for verse 15. I really got this messed up. It's verse 35. And he says, for when you demonstrate the same love that I have for you by loving one another, everyone will know that you are my true followers.
Amen.
So, uh, powerful verses. Good morning, Apostle Daniel. Good to see you this morning. So, when it comes to this new commandment, Apostle Katt, a footnote says Jesus set a new standard of love before his followers. Although the Old Testament does instruct us to love one another, Jesus now gives us the commandment to use his standard of love for us as the true measurement of love as we care for one another. So let me just say this. We know in the Old Testament, although we're commanded to love, their loving was more based on the act of obedience, the walking, the doing of the works, following all the rules, trying to get it all right, and failed at every turn. What are you seeing here in these verses and, just these thoughts this morning?
I see that it's pretty cut and dry, right? Love everybody as I have loved you. That's easy, right? How come we are not doing that? It's
Uh-huh.
hard. It's hard. It's hard to one, look outside yourself, right? To see yourself from a self-aware position, but see your external activity, your external self, the self that you present to others, right? So for me, I can honestly say that it takes me a minute. God's like, be patient, and I'm like, I'm I'm
Hmm.
I'm working on it. Give me 2 seconds. That 2 seconds
Yeah.
sometimes turns into 20 minutes, but at the end of the day, like, these are not easy things to do. Just blindly love someone, even when they're being mean to you. It's not exactly that, though. So, love everybody as I have loved you. Well, some people you have to love from a different place, right? So, some people you can't love right next to them because that's not good. It's toxic or what have you. So, you have to love them from over here,
Hmm.
right? So, it's not that literal, like, oh, no, you literally need to love as I have loved you. We are creations of God. We are not God. However, we do have the ability. We have the ability to love as God loved, and that just means unconditionally.
It's amazing to me that God took the pattern of Himself. Now think about this. This is way more serious, more. Let me say it this way. This is way more sobering than we're used to. God took the pattern of Himself. So I say it this way: God goes to His pattern closet to find a pattern for His creation, and He only has one pattern in there, and that's the pattern of Himself. And so He grabs that pattern, and by virtue of, hey, this is all there is to choose from, He first of all, Genesis 1:1 created us. Genesis 1:26 fashioned us or formed us after the pattern of His image and likeness. And here's the clincher: to reflect Him, because one of those words, if not both of them, allude to being the mirrored reflection of God. And so we mirror who God is. Now, being a copy, and I won't say that we are God. Psalms says in the Hebrew language that we're the smallest measurement of distance from our creator. So you've got God, and then you've got His reflection, and that's us. We're not the creator, we're the created. But the fact is that everything that God is has already been poured into us in eternity past. He took the pattern, took the mold, and He poured everything that He is into that mold. So we absolutely have the ability to love. But I will say this: in this fleshly arena, and dealing with the mind that is both renewed and unrenewed, and those unrenewed thoughts, and the battle between good and evil, or spirit and soul, and etc. Sometimes it really is hard to love unconditionally. You look at someone and you have this, maybe you're having a bad day, okay? And this can
Mm-hmm.
happen, folks. You're having a bad day. You're just mad at the world, okay? You're just really upset, and you see someone doing something, and and immediately begin to think this, and then it is in a moment or two till you verbalize it and think, what a stupid thing that is to do. Why would anyone do? And I get that, but then we can go on to even be even more judgmental in a way that God is not. You see, God has already set the stage. He said, here's what you should do, and here's what you shouldn't do in eternity past. And the fact is, in us, we've got this moral compass that says do good or do bad, and it's never to do bad. But we get confused sometimes, and we just go off on a tantrum, and we just do some stuff. And I can't think how serious it is, not condemning serious, but how serious it is to be created in the exact reflection of God. And then all of a sudden, we're going off on God's creation. And it's like, wow, I wish I hadn't have done that. But we do have those days, don't we?
Yes, we do. We do. We have a right to have our feelings, right? And we have a right to have a bad day. It's what we do with that, right? So again, that's that unconditional love. See, it's a big word. It's like this long, but really in reality, it is just choosing to love someone past their flaws.
Hmm.
Choosing to love someone even though they might not make the choices you would make. How are they going to know how to make those choices if you didn't teach them? So when you are sitting in a place where you feel like you are the most unloved, I found for myself when I feel like I'm the most unloved, I'm actually not feeling like I'm unloved. I'm feeling like I'm not really loving myself. So when we take those moments to just go, okay, wait a minute, let's not be under the fad of living under oppression because it's cool. Let's not let ourselves be oppressed by ourselves. And in the end, this is not a God or a Satan or a pastor problem. This is us not knowing as pastors, we need to know how to instill that confidence in our followers so that we can help them to be better leaders so that they can create followers. Because why wouldn't we want to teach people in our church how to go create bigger churches or bigger organizations? We would. So for me, like when I'm looking at the situation, if I have to deal with someone who's doing something that is literally not okay, I can't just be like, you knew better. What's wrong with
Yeah,
you? You
yeah,
know, there's a reason for the behavior, and we have to look in with our love eyes that God gave us. I always tell people, can't hear my haters with my love glasses on. You know what I'm saying? Like, we need to look through our love glasses that God gave us and see their hurt and
hmm,
understand that people lash out because they're in pain. This isn't about them hating you. This isn't about you being unloved. And it's not even about us. So, as pastors, we got to quit making it about us. We need to make it about
yeah,
God.
yeah. When people are doing some stuff that is unpleasant or unacceptable, it's because of what they're going through. It's not because of what you're going through. And so you can get all beside yourself and judge that when in really it's not about what you're going. It doesn't justify it. You know, we've had leaders in our churches before that have had some very erroneous character flaws that we didn't know about until the moment. And we've had to make some judgment calls, some decisions about leadership. But the fact is, just remember, you don't have to get angry. It's not about what you're going through, it's about what they're going through. So how can you minister to them? Well, to help this a little further, let's look at three different points in this lesson as we've been doing each week. Point number one: love as the mark of true leadership. Let's look at John 13, 3 and 4. As a matter of fact, 3, 4, and 5. Um, my screen share is not coming up. I've just had some technical difficulties the last few days. So, uh, anyway, give us a moment here. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. No, I can't even do that. Well, let me just read this. Okay, maybe now. Yay! Okay. All right. The Passion Translation, the second entry on your screen. Now, Jesus was fully aware that the Father had placed all things under his control, for he had come from God and was about to go back to be with him. And a lot of explained there, but we'll just let that be for now. So he got from, verse 4, so he got up from the meal and took off his outer robe and took a towel and wrapped it around his waist. Verse 5. Then he poured water into a basin and began to wash the disciples' dirty feet and dry them with the towel. Now, everybody watching today, I don't know where you're at. I don't know what church you're in or what home fellowship you're in. I don't know if you see foot washing as just an Old Testament ritual. However, it's not Old Testament. It's something Jesus did to show his service and his love to his disciples. So whether you practice foot washing or do not practice foot washing, no judgment here, but just tell the story. The truth is, here's a picture of the model leader who serves others. And I wanted to add this little piece of information here. He did that even in menial tasks. You know, when my wife and I were first growing up in the church, and I say that, I mean, after our childhood and we were married, we just got married and I was 18 years old, just missed the draft for Vietnam by literally by one day, and so on. And we're in the church and we did clean bathrooms. We taught the little children when we were youth pastors. pastors and could teach the older children. We did all kinds of stuff. It doesn't matter what it was. We came up in the church learning the value of serving. Now, one of the things about serving often, now listen to this, it doesn't have to be this way, but the truth is a lot of times serving is voluntary. Okay, that means you don't get paid. We have spent a lot of our lives doing volunteer work for the Lord, for the church, because there just wasn't payment enough to, pay a pastor. I mean, we've worked and pastored, we've served in the church and worked jobs. I mean, whatever it took to get the job done, somebody had to do it. And there are times, uh, Apostle Cat, that we've had people in the church who were leaders who would say, I am above doing those menial tasks. It might be for people, but I'm not going to do it because I'm better than that, and just would not serve. And here, Jesus, the Son of God, the Messiah, doing all this stuff that he was doing and validating himself, and he just takes off his outer robe, wraps a towel around, and hey, guys, give me a basin of water. I'm going to wash your feet. I remember Peter. We didn't read this, but I remember Peter saying, "You know what? You're not going to wash my feet." And Jesus saying, if I can't wash your feet, then you're no part of me. And Peter says, hey, Lord, you know what? You can wash me from the head to the toe. I mean, I'm all in. So isn't it true that sometimes we really just uh, we can be at that place where we think, you know what? I really am not going to lower myself to do that.
Of course. I mean, it's 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 washing feet. That's gross, right?
Well,
So my
it
dad,
it can be.
my dad, he does this thing when he's working with the pastors, and it's so amazing because I see this big bear of a guy who is always just this sweet, comforting man, and he gets down on the ground with a basin of water, and he's a bishop. He's a bishop. For the love of the Lord, he's a bishop. Why are you washing people's feet? I'm like, Dad, I love that.
Yeah.
That is intimate. That is service work at its finest. And if you are in the ministry and you think you don't have to do service work, you need to get out of the ministry. Bottom line. Because at the end of the day, service work is what helps you be your best self in the ministry. A good leader leads from a place of love. And that's it. If that means in the middle, the front, the back, to the side, off on a video camera, whatever that is, a positive, effective leader leads from a place of love.
Yeah.
So when you're looking at washing feet, that's amazing. That's an amazing way to promote inclusivity. That is a way for a bishop to bring themselves here to their follower, to that homeless person, to that single mom, to that pregnant teenager, to that guy who just got out of prison, to that grandma who just lost her loved one or her grandson or what have you. There are 1,000 things these people are going through out there, from suicide to financial issue to mental health disorders to divorce. There are so many things that are crumbling their worlds. And so what you're telling me is sitting down and washing someone's feet has somehow made you feel like you're better than that or you're above that. We are his creation. We are not above God. It is our choice. But I will wash someone's feet no matter
Yeah.
what at any point. Why? Because that's an intimate point that God gave us, that opportunity to sit with another person and wash their feet and show them that I'm not better than you. I am equal to you. You are the creation, and so am I.
We were in this larger body of people, and there was a leadership of 12, and of this leadership, the senior pastor had some illness thing going on, and his legs were scaly and broken and sores and gross, and most everybody would not wash his feet. I had no issue with it because mine at that time looked about the same. And I mean, you can wash your hands afterwards if that's really an issue. But I wouldn't recommend it with open sores if you really want to be careful. But the point is, and I want to say this: you can teach and preach, and serve the people. Have a servant's heart. But the truth is, you can also do other things as they're needed. If you're not needed in an area, stay in your lane. Let others serve too. Don't take that away from them. But if there's opportunity, don't avoid it. I'll say this: a lot of times, I used to go to the church early on Sunday morning, and I would spend time in prayer, walking through the auditorium, straightening seats and picking up trash, and what we used to call. We used to call them picking up the sheep droppings, because people just leave trash, and they don't think about it, kind of like the movie theater type thing. But the reality is that do whatever needs to be done. So really, the point is that leaders lead in a variety of ways at all levels. So this is very important. Let's go on to point two: healing a culture of harsh leadership. Now listen to this. This is powerful. Healing a culture of harsh leadership. In other words, harsh leadership is the sickness to the culture, in the culture, and we need to heal that. So we need to encourage leaders to shift from a fear-based model, are you hearing this, to a love-based model. And folks, we've all seen that, we've all had that. From a fear, we talked a little bit about this last time, shift from a fear-based model to a love-based model. Here in 1 John 4:18, the second entry on your screen, the Passion Translation, it says, love never brings fear. For fear is always related to punishment, but love's perfection drives the fear of punishment far from our hearts. Whoever walks constantly afraid of punishment has not reached love's perfection. So, as long as you are made to fear your leadership, and I talked about this last time, how that my father was just a different kind of guy, but he led from a fear-based perspective. It was the iron fist. It was that it's my way or the highway, and he was in charge, and everybody knew he was in charge. I'm not give a judgment and say yay or nay. I'm just saying that it's better, instead of instilling fear in people, that we learn to instill love in people,
Mhm.
or lead by love. So what do you think about this? The law of Moses was fear based. It was a fear based style of leadership, due to the fact that if you were obedient, you were reminded of if you were disobedient, rather, I meant, you were reminded of the consequences that you were going to face. So fear based leadership always reminds people of the possibility of failure. That's what fear does. It reminds people of the possibility of failure. Good to see Prince Kewen from Liberia, West Africa. One of our
Welcome.
students. He might be more than I can't say. Anyway, glad to have you. But love-based leadership fills people with the hope of succeeding. Isn't it better to help people know that, hey, you're not going to fail, you're going to succeed, and that can be due to your leadership style?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Fear-based leadership is fleeting. If you are operating your congregation out of fear of, God's disappointment or any of those things, it will fail. And
Mm-hmm.
eventually the oppression and the oppressive leadership style can cause a breakdown in the community. As a church, you are responsible for an entire community, not just for the people who walk through the door. So, as a church in the community, we want to make sure that we are providing a safe, brave space so that they
Mm-hmm.
can come in, that we want everybody to come there, even the lady whose kids eat all the donuts. Um, we want, even the homeless guy who literally is he does not smell great, and he has been drinking for a long time. Even him, and it's funny. I was on a visit with my son. He is otherwise located due to some issues that he has with behavior. And
Mm-hmm.
we were at a visit, and there was a gentleman that I know from different rehab and things like that, and I've seen him around town. He decided to take a lethal dose of fentanyl and die right there
Mm.
on the side of the road. Called the ambulance. They got there. They hit him a few times with the Narcan. He came back, right? Um, and I looked at him. He goes by Gator. And I said, Gator, this is your choice. You are making a choice, but you are negatively affecting the community while doing it.
Uh-huh.
So I need you to go either choose you and your life and let God heal you, or go and do this where the community can't see, because this isn't fair. You are affecting your community negatively. And I said that to him, but I also have said that to pastors as well. You are negatively affecting your community by condemning them to a hell that you don't really believe in. So for us, we have to really think about a welcoming environment that basically shows love and support to the willing participants. These are willing participants. They walked through the door, but then we need to go one further. We need to be there to show love and support for our community, because you want them to walk through the door, right? So never asking people to follow blindly. A positive leader leads from the middle or the back, again, as I said, or the side. They don't always have to be like, you follow me because I'm the one. No, let's create other leaders. If you have someone who walks into your church who's tattooed from head to toe, are you going to walk up and talk to them and be like, oh, you're welcome
Yeah.
here?
Yeah.
No, you're going to find somebody else who in your church who's tattooed so they can talk to him. No, walk up and talk to them. They're people. So are you. Don't
Yeah.
go find a tattooed janitor and be like, hey, can you help me here? I want you to talk to this guy. No, you talk to him. It's all about being accepting. It's all about having that open arms mentality of welcome. Everybody's welcome here, you know? Everybody,
Yeah.
and who's anybody? Who cares who you're married to? We don't care all that. We care that you needed to hear the good news. This is where they go to get good news. The newspaper don't exist anymore. They go to get good news from the community-based organization, the church. Be
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. I mean, there's so many ways we serve communities. I have been called upon just because I was the new guy in town to do funerals when a family had no minister in their life, or to, sought out for weddings for the same reason. I mean, a lot of things. We officiate at various functions just because we're looked to in a community as a leader, as a spiritual leader. Now, I'm going to say
Absolutely.
something that's super, super sensitive. I don't want to offend anybody. Some of you are my personal friends that are watching. Some of you are Facebook friends, and I don't want to be an offense to you. But I want to tell you, we as leaders walk a different path. It's not that we're better. Please understand this. The scriptures say if you're going to teach, okay, think twice about it, because we're under another set of rules, another set of judgments. People look at us. That's really what it's saying. People look at us differently than they do others. So how you conduct yourself is very important. Now, my wife and I, this June, for me, I will have started preaching 53 years ago, and that's a few days. Now, I will tell you, we pastored for about 40 years for the most part. That and we dealt with a lot of stuff. Now, I want to say this. Again, I don't want to offend anybody. My opinion is my opinion, and your opinion is your opinion. I am a person who's, and I'm not saying, please don't take this wrong. I'm just giving you an example. But I want to tell you, I'm a guy who was raised in a home where we did not drink alcohol. And I want you to hear this. Again, no condemnation whatsoever. But I had family members, relatives. I mean, I've held puking uncles who were so drunk they couldn't hold anything down. I've been there, okay? So as a result of the way I conduct myself, I've had ministers come to me. This one pastor was coming out of a grocery store with a case of beer on his shoulder, and I didn't say a word to him. He comes up to me and says, Pastor, and he wasn't in my church. He had his own church. He was a pastor. And he said, Pastor, I have a drinking problem. Well, he would get just plastered out of his mind. That's an issue when people need you and you're not able to mentally function. And he asked me, what should I do? Now, don't ask me what should you do if you don't want me to tell you what you should do. And I said, you got two choices: either leave the ministry or quit drinking. And I instructed him to take some time out if that's what you got to do to get past this, because you are the example to your congregation. You got a building, you got a church, you got a congregation, you preach every week. Just take some time off, get this taken care of, or just quit. Well, I don't really know what happened to the guy. If I remember right, he left the ministry altogether, which was not my intention. But I'm going to tell you, we are held to a higher standard just because we're an example. So you're right, Apostle Cat. We're an example in our community.
Mhm.
We're an example in our homes, and everybody's got a background. Maybe your background was drinking. Maybe your background was being very foul. Maybe your background was, and I could name a lot of things because I've seen it. I've seen it in my own family, in my own siblings, in my own relatives. I've seen it in congregation members. I get it. It doesn't make the pastor or the leader perfect. But just
Mm,
understand, we're held to a different standard. Why? People are watching you, and you're leading or setting the example for others. I'm glad Jesus was like Jesus was. I'm glad that
yeah,
even when Peter says, "Hey, you can't even touch, you're not washing my feet," Jesus just, he did not be condemning. He just told Peter how it was. Now, I took a little extra time because of this. We're addressing the wounds in congregations, and they're caused by judgmental leadership. We need to be the vehicle of bringing healing and relief in them. How can we do that if you've ever lost your temper in front of your congregation? That had as much an impact as them finding you drunk in the corner somewhere. Okay, I'm not saying that we're perfect, Apostle Cat, but I'm
mhm.
saying we do need to watch our p's and q's because someone's life will be impacted by the way we live ours.
Absolutely. So addressing the wounds of an oppressive congregation can actually be terrible. I,
Hmm.
I'm sorry. Did I breathe hopelessness? No. There's hope, but it can be terrible because everybody processes trauma differently. Pastor Cat, you're calling
That's
us.
right.
You're saying we're traumatizing our people. No, I'm saying that
Hey, not
when
intentionally.
exactly, exactly. I'm not saying you're intentionally traumatizing people. I am saying that there is the potential for them to receive a trauma because when people come to church, again, I've said this before, three reasons. One, they're there because their friend invited them. Two, they're new to the neighborhood and need to find something. Or three, they are looking to find peace somehow. So we all came to church and we only cared about the lady eating, kids eating the donuts and what hat we wore. We forgot to bring God to church, and so he's not there. So how are we doing this? So addressing the wound of an oppressive congregation can seem like addressing the wound of a broken family unit. And when we look at people and we say, hey, you're just being hateful and you're not really thinking about this, and God
Yeah,
loves
yeah,
you.
yeah,
Okay,
yeah.
first of all, listen, Skillet is a band who will scream that God loves you at the top of their lungs because that is the kind of music that their followers listen to. But sitting in a church and a pulpit, getting angry and screaming, God loves you, and
Uh
you
huh.
did,
Uh huh.
Jesus died for you. What are you going to do for
Hmm.
him?
Hmm. Hmm.
Yikes,
Hmm.
bro. Stop it.
Yeah, it's condemnation.
Don't do that because
Yeah,
here they came in here. And most often, there's a hurt, there's a
yeah.
pain. We are counselors. And as counselors, I make mistakes. Heck, I made mistakes with my own friend the other day, you know?
Yeah.
And I'm having to be like, okay, wait a minute. Let's turn around. Let me pull over to the side. Let me pray about it. Let me check myself. Let me look at my carbon footprint here because I can only handle my part and I can counsel through the other part. But if we break down the connection because we decided to be like, you, this, and God and punishment and hate and anger and this and that, that doesn't even feel good to people watching me do it right now, and they didn't do anything.
Right. Right.
So continually pointing that finger has three pointing back at you, first of all. Second, we measure our loyalty and we connect contingencies to it. God does not do that to us.
Hmm.
Why would we do that to someone else? Well, God let me live this life. No, friend. God allowed you to make choices for yourself, and this is a life that you created, and it's crappy. I know, and I hate it, and probably shouldn't have said crappy. But at the end of the day, the reality is it is your choice, and you can get out of bed every day and you can make it really bad, or you can get out of bed every day and you can make it really good.
Yeah,
But in the
yeah,
end, you do not have to be oppressed by somebody simply because you want to feel love and they want to oppress you because they choose to believe in a God that condemns and that punishes when that is not the
yeah,
God that we were created by.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And everything Apostle Cat and I just said in point two. Let's look at the flip side of that. Okay, leaders also have real problems, um, and should get them addressed. Okay, you need to get it straightened out, whatever it is. But we deal with real issues too. You know, family issues, financial issues, pain, and you know, I never did this when I was pastoring, but can get can take narcotics, get hooked on narcotics for a legitimate reason. A legitimate
Mm-hmm.
reason, a car wreck, an accident of some sort, legitimate reason. You know, we have to, you know, I'm the kind of person that if a doctor puts me on something for pain, I'm in control. Okay, I don't
Mm-hmm.
let anybody else dictate to me how much or how long. I'm in control. But the thing is that everybody has some type of a problem, even leaders. And if you, even though I'm saying leaders are held to a higher standard, here's what I'm saying: as a congregation, please minister to your leader. Please pray for your leader if you see them going through something. Don't just run off and go somewhere else or quit going to a church altogether just because you've got a leader that's messed up. Which brings us to point three. With every, and we've done this for 3 weeks now, so everything's got to end with a practical application. How do I walk this out? Well, here it is: walking in love daily. That's the answer. Walking in love. Now, walking in love is a choice. You can choose to not love,
Mm-hmm.
and or you can choose to love, and it's much better. The outcome is much better if you walk in love.
Amen.
Not always the easiest, as Apostle Cat said right from the start today. It's not always the easiest, and I get that. Let's look at 1 Thessalonians 4, verse 9 and 10. The second entry on your screen, the Passion Translation, and it says, "There's no need for anyone to say much about you, about loving your fellow." Let me start that over because this is too valuable to not get it right. There's no need for anyone to say much to you about loving your fellow believers, for God is continually teaching you to unselfishly, we could inject the word unconditionally, love one another. And then verse 10 says, uh, indeed, your love is what you're known for throughout Macedonia. Now, here's Paul teaching here and saying, you know, here's what how Macedonia knows you. Okay, he goes on to say, we urge you, beloved ones, to let this unselfish or unconditional love increase and flow through you more and more. Let me say something real quickly about love increasing, and that's this: all that God is, all love that He has in Him was, in a way, uh, uh, duplicated or used in you. So you have all of God's love in you. But how love increases in us is in this human condition. The more you love, the more you become awakened to how great love is, how love ministers to others, how love changes others' lives. Again, you can have a fear-based leadership style, and you can impart to people the idea that I could never succeed no matter what I do. Or you can have a love-based leadership style, and it will help people to understand that, you know what, I can succeed. So when leaders make a choice to love those you serve, it reinforces a love-based leadership and creates the habit of loving. That's how you increase. You create the habit of loving. They say doing something for 21 days, and I'm not sure that's an exact science, but they say
Yeah.
that it's how you can develop a new habit. Just do the same thing for 21 days. I think it starts with a heart change, a repentive attitude. It starts with a decision, and you do it as many days as it takes to get it down. Whether it's 20, less than 21 or more than 20, you just do that because many times we hold others accountable for their actions. Yet leaders also need to understand the importance of accountability, if only to God. So that can be your spouse, that can be a neighboring pastor,
Hmm.
a friend that's not a part of your congregation, or let me just say this. When I was growing up in leadership, so been in leadership a long time. When I was growing up in the church, we were taught don't be friends with the people in your church because they'll take advantage of you. You know what? We threw that out a long time ago. You can be friends with anybody you can trust. Friendship at least should be someone you can trust. But you need to be accountable to someone. If it's your board, as long as they love you back and you love, it doesn't matter. Find the place where you can be accountable for your actions just as much as you hold others accountable for their actions. So that's a mouthful. What do you think, Apostle Cat?
Okay, so when I first started my leadership journey, and I did start a leadership journey because um, I was a new pastor. I had just been ordained probably a year, maybe. And I had really, my social skills were not great because before I was a pastor, I was a crackhead and a drunk. And I was trying to learn how to manage myself through this pull that I felt I had. I felt I had a pull from the Holy Spirit. I felt that I needed to be doing these things, but I didn't know how to find the compassion. I didn't know how to be the love chapter that I would just open the book and start reading it and begin to cry.
Mm,
I would begin to weep because I knew that this was the truth. I knew there was truth in here, but I just didn't know how to find it and I didn't know where to access it. And so I began to reach out and I began to say, hey, I need help. I don't understand. And pastors who had been there with me for years and supported me called me names like, you're a little full of yourself.
mm-hmm,
You're a little
mm-hmm,
puffed up.
mm-hmm,
You think you're better than everybody else. And I had to really check my behavior. Am I acting that way? Or am I just so excited about everything that I am learning and the potential for me to actually listen to my own brain and move forward is there that I'm trying not to be a knothead anymore. I'm not going to be a knucklehead forever. I'm going to move forward. And when you make that choice, a lot of times the people around you, they weren't on the same fire that you were. So I didn't see it from that perspective. So I had to remember I go away to a leadership convention, I come back, I'm in college, I'm doing all these things. And again, I'm a late in life college. I'm a second, I did it the second time around. So I'm in my early 40s doing this, right? And I'm learning things and I'm seeing things. And it turns out that the best leader is the one who can remember that they are part of a team of people.
mm-hmm.
And it took me 12 leadership courses to say that in my final presentation for my class. And it was amazing because I got it. Because I stopped asking my professors things like, what do we do here? I asked my professor, what am I to absorb from this? So as I am meeting with people and I am talking to them, I repeat back, seems like you're struggling. I get it. Your son is struggling with alcohol addiction. I've been there myself. I know what it's like. How can I help you? How can I help you? And a
Yeah.
lot of times people are going to say, I don't know. I don't know. I just feel so confused and I'm so upset and I don't know how to. And at that point, as leaders, let them talk. Let
Mm-hmm,
them dump it out. Let them
mm-hmm,
pour it all out. If they say a swear word, if they say 1,000 swear words, so what? Let them swear. You've heard swear words before and you didn't die. Let them swear. Let them say what they need to say to get it off of their chest because that is what leading from a place of love looks like. Don't condemn them for their feelings. They have feelings. Are they acting irrationally? Maybe. Have you ever acted irrationally? Yes, you have. Stop acting like you weren't human first before you were called to do the ministry. We
Yeah.
are all still here doing things just because most of us, or most, I don't have a church. I'm going to be real honest with you. I don't have a building. I do not have a building. I have a house, a room I pay for, but I still do everything I can for my community and for smaller, more protected communities. Because at the end of the day, those are the things. What if we are wrong? What if God is going to be like, hey, check it out. I'm asking you about everybody else's sins. Okay. I want to be able to have a conversation.
Yeah.
But I know God is not going to ask me about sins. He's not going to ask me about anybody else's sins. He's not going to ask me anything other than, was the trip rough? Because at the end of the day, I know when I ascend, I'm going to make sure that I was the very best leader I could be. And I led from a place of love. And I did everything I could do to be my best self. And I am going to fail. I am going to fall on my face. I am going to be less than I should be sometimes. But I am going to always do my best to be my best self. Because as leaders, if we fall, so do they,
Yeah.
because we aren't leading from that place of love to teach them how to lead. If a pastor is having issues, I ran into this. A pastor was having issues. He was having some serious cancer problems, and another pastor had to step up, and the congregation was angry about that. We don't like him. He doesn't say the right things. He preaches
Yeah.
too long. He does this or that or the other. It's like, stop that. Be grateful we have another pastor so we don't have to dissipate the church.
Yeah. Yeah.
Be grateful that we have a place for our community to come to. Be grateful that we're here making meals to feed our police force on Thursday while they keep us safe, because we live in a very rural area where people are coming in and being they're hostile. See, that stuff still happens today, and it happened when I was growing up, and it happened in 2018. So when we're sitting around passing judgments, and well, I'm not passing judgment, I'm just making an observation. Is your observation worded correctly, or are we using our words now to hurt people?
Right.
We have a whole book of words that we're supposed to use to help people, but we're still using those words to hurt people. I spoke with a very smart lady that really has really enlightened me on some things, and she brought to light discrepancies where we are believing one way and it's not the other. So we have to educate ourselves. And again, shameless plug, I have to do it. But if you need to know more about what I'm talking about what Dr. Bill is saying, please, WBSU is glad to have you. Tuition free school. There is some fees, but they are small and very, very menial compared to what you will learn and the value of your education. And I have learned a lot from WBSU, and a lot from just the general like professors and things like that. And we're learning and we're molding each other, because again, stone, steel sharpens steel. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, as pastors, we're lifting each other up. Any pastor in here, any student in here, anybody, I don't care if you're 75 or 17. If you need counsel, I'm here, because I'm going to come from a place of love, because that's all I know. Because I had to
Yeah.
unlearn all that other stuff.
Yeah. Well, let me say this. You talked about a few things, and one of them being education. Now, let me go way back. I was raised in the ministry. Okay, that's all I've known ever since I was a small child. I don't know the other life, although I do know some things about the other side of the coin, which is my dad was a military sergeant, a drinker, a smoker, profanity. I mean, the whole nine. I'm not saying that has to happen in the military, but it does to a lot of people. He lost being a sergeant by getting mad and punching out his senior officer, which is
Oh,
a terrible thing to tell, but lost his temper. Here's a future pastor, so he's got a past. But I start preaching at 17. By 18, my wife and I are youth pastors of quite a large youth group. By 20 years old, I'm a senior pastor, and I pastored two churches before I ever got any kind of formal education. So at the age of 24, I'm pastoring my second church, and a man comes into my life, Dr. Elmer Easter. He's gone now, but he begins to educate me, and I start going through schooling. I learned that he was the president of his own Christian college. I didn't know that. It took me 10 years to get my first doctorate, but little by little, I was being educated in a lot of on the job training and a lot of, a lot of practicum exercises, which is on the job training, a fancy way to say that in college. So I'm two churches down, and I'm finally get the education that I've always wanted. Now I've had a lot of education since, but my point is this: we found out when we were teaching in a university in Liberia, West Africa. We were doing this online. My wife was the administrator. We found out that Rwandan pastors, the government was taking their churches away from them because they didn't have any kind of a degree, and we knew what they could and could not afford. We learned the African culture, and this is what I want to say to you. So we opened World Bible School University tuition free just for that purpose, to help other people get an education that couldn't otherwise afford an education. So I know a tuition free university can make a university look cheap. But that's not the case here, folks. We're fully accredited. We're recognized by the Department of Higher Education. We've got every every I dotted, every T crossed, as legal can get. But here's what I want to tell you: I'm not going to tell you that we're a perfect school, and I would say that otherwise, but I'm not going to say that today. I'm going to tell you that we're a good school. Okay, we're not a perfect school. That means that we've still got growing to do and learning to do. But here's what I want to say: when we pastored people, you have to understand the transition from a brick and mortar building to an online university. We're this month of March, we end our 6th year, and we will be starting our 7th year. Now, I don't remember that date for sure. I think it's the 19th or something like that. So in a few days, we'll be starting our 7th year. But here's the thing. We've been saying for a long time now, 500 students, a school of 500 students. We're now a school of almost 600 students. I think it's 573, somewhere in there. I don't know the exact number. So we're nearly a school of 600 students, and we've got people who are Anglican bishops, who are Baptist, Pentecostals. We have one man that's over the Pentecostal movement in his old country. We've got Catholics. We've got, I mean, you name it. My wife and I talked several times. We think we have even a few Mormons in this, Muslims in the school. Rather, it doesn't matter what your venue is, how many years you've been doing. We've got people who are as senior ministers as we are, but these people are being educated and re-educated to some degree in a message of unconditional love, and applying the scriptures in that way, so that they can get an education, but also so they can learn to love one another. And here Paul said that love is what they were known for in this passage we just read, and he urges them to allow love to increase in them. So let me just do this as a final thing. I do have a couple of closing thoughts if we have time here. But how do we increase in love? How do we inspire others to love unselfishly? Can you tackle that one?
Nope, I don't got nothing for you. No, I'm just kidding. I tell people at the end of the day, it's all about choosing your peace. I deal with a lot of people who are, past criminal activity, things like that. I always tell them it's all about choosing your peace, not your peace. So stop using this tool that you have created for your safety and start using yourself as a place for safety. We are responsible for our own selves, and whatever we believe with feeling ultimately becomes our reality. So let's say for a second we believed that regardless of anything else on the whole planet, we loved people unconditionally because that gave us a free cup of coffee every morning, right? The thing of it is, a free cup of coffee isn't a thing. It's all about making a choice. You're not going to be optically rewarded. Like people say all the time, well, I don't get any miracles. Nothing, no blessings ever happen to me. It's like, well, what does a miracle or a blessing look like? Listen,
Mhm.
it is not easy to love everybody, but it is easy to love yourself if you want to. That then becomes something that you can do for other people. And if you can't love yourself, love someone else and let someone else love you so that you can learn how to love. We are not here all making the best choices. And I mean, I thought that I made the right choice and did the right thing and said the right thing and put all of the information where it needed to go, and that was the very best choice. And then you find out afterwards, nah, that wasn't a great choice, and now I've done to do that, and I'm really dumb and I don't know what I'm. Don't condemn yourself. Give yourself the same courtesy you would give someone else. So if
Mm-hmm.
someone else, you would give them the courtesy of saying, you know what, you might be struggling right now with loving this person because of how they've treated you. Forgive yourself. Forgive yourself for not being able to do that. It all usually boils down to we are oppressing ourselves so hard that we forget that we deserve love too. So if you first love yourself, you'll be able to love others. And if you can't love yourself, allow someone to love you so that you can learn to love others. But
Right.
choosing every single day to choose this response from a place of love is going to take practice. And you might have to stop and think before you say something, which shouldn't we all be doing that anyway as a courtesy to the other creations? We are all God's creation. And when I look at people in the morning, I say, good morning, beautiful creation. And they look at me like, Kat, why are you talking to me that way? You know, there are some places I'm not an apostle. I'm just Kat. Good morning, beautiful creation. Why are you talking to me that way? Well, because I think you're a beautiful creation of God. Have a great morning. You know, a
Mm-hmm.
hug,
Mm-hmm.
kiss on the forehead, you know, a little sock to the arm, whatever it is in that dynamic. That's how that goes. And people will say, she's so happy in the morning. I don't know what happens. That's because I get up at 4 a.m. and start drinking coffee. No, that's not true. I never start coffee before 4. No. But there's those things. It's a choice. It's a choice for me to get out of bed and keep myself in a positive mind frame. And sometimes I lose that. Sometimes I lose that. So, do you love every day? You love every day. Can you love actively every day? No, it's hard. But we didn't die from doing it. So, if you're not dying, then why aren't we living?
Yeah. 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 That's right. And I can see now you having a broadcast, and that's how you start it every morning is good morning, beautiful people,
Yeah,
or a good
absolutely.
morning creation of God. Yeah. That'd make
Beautiful
a great
creations.
broadcast. Yeah.
You keep saying that. I real feel like that's little seeds being planted, sir. I feel you're doing that to me.
Well, I just I just think, hey, if you got something to say, then there's a great platform for you to say it on, and that's a Facebook Live, or accumulate a YouTube channel, get people to subscribe to your YouTube channel and teach it. There's multiple ways. So anyway, let me offer a few closing thoughts and about this series, and I can say this for Apostle Cat and myself. We hope this series has challenged you to reevaluate your approach to ministry. That's really a big thing. Um, your approach to ministry is everything. I learned a lot of things when I was pastoring. There was a lot of things I didn't learn until I was responsible, along with Dr. Fay, for a worldwide university, and we're still learning. In our 70-ish years, I won't give those away because I never tell my wife's age, and I'm hesitant even to tell my age. But at this age, we have learned to reevaluate some things. We've looked back and seen some things we did wrong. Everybody has it. Don't be under condemnation because you made some past mistakes, but just understand you can reevaluate that and you can establish a new approach to ministry. And especially this part, engaging in a love based leadership. You see,
Amen.
our leadership style should and does, but it should reflect love, grace, and truth. The truth of the eternal Christ. The eternal Christ, that's a major revelation that I hope to be talking about soon on a broadcast. But rather than here's the that's the better way. But here's rather than judgment and control that produces a fear based leadership. You see, all of us need to become inspired to shift our thinking by considering our leadership style and the church culture around us. I want to tell you something. You may not be happy with today's church culture. I can tell you that those in this culture are not happy with a lot of things. I can tell you a lot of people in today's culture are burnt out on preachers, on Christian television, on going to a church. Um, and I'm not saying throw some bean bags around on the floor and have a big open room and put on a disco ball and flashing lights. And if you want to do that. That probably would never work for me. But you can do whatever style fits the culture. But just remember, the culture around you is hurting. They're wounded. They need someone to step in. You say, "Well, Jesus will come someday." No, Jesus already came, and he left a deposit, and you're it. Tag, you're
Amen.
it. Okay, you're it.
Yes.
And the culture around you is hurting, and they need you to minister to them. So
Amen.
um, it's so important. And you coming on, every time I have a broadcast, whether it's just a one time or this series, I always ask my guests, "What do you want to talk about?" And you had this topic of leading from love, and not knowing where this was going to go, this actually was the perfect topic for this series, and especially a conversation between you and I. And I know your dad has had a Soldiers of the Cross organization for quite a long time. It does a lot of different things, and I know you've become responsible for that in a great way. And so you pastor, you're an apostle, you're a teacher, you do all kinds of stuff. You do admin work, and tech work and all that. And it takes a lot to be committed to something like that. And then plus your own home life and your business and so on. But what a way to do that, to learn to lead from love. And I know for you, from your side of the fence and my side, two opposite upbringings.
Yep.
Um, and to end up right in the middle and saying, you know what, there is no better way to lead than to lead from love. What an awesome week, 3 weeks. So I really appreciate you being on. You can share a closing word or whatever you'd like.
I have absolutely had the best time, and I always do with you. I think that I feel honored to fit into um, your theological circle. I feel honored to be included and invited, and I feel all those things very deeply because this is something. And um, I think that for everybody to understand that I am not sitting here saying that I never have issue or I never feel like I've made a mistake or never. I feel like I made a mistake right now, as I mentioned before, with a friend of mine. So I'm working on me. I'm being my best self. And I think that if we can all just look at the situation for what it is, we need to
Hmm.
lead from a place of love. We need to lead from that place where we're feeling like we are being as effective as we need to be. We cannot control other people. However, if we control our own behavior and we control how our external person is,
Uh-huh.
then we're going to draw others close to us who want to know how they can also have that happiness or how they can also have that uplifting clarity or how they can also become pastors or if you're having trouble as a pastor, let a deacon handle it. Let the praise and worship guy handle it. Let the sound guy do it. But at the end of the
Hmm.
day, allow other leaders in your church to become leaders. It's not to replace you, it's to make your legacy better as a pastor.
Yeah.
So know that I love you all and that I hope to be back again in this year. And know that I will be bringing more information about just learning to love from a place of love. And I'm going to be watching um, Dr. Kay Fairchild, and I'm going to be watching Dr. Bill, and I'm going to be, Dr. Daniel. I'm going to be doing all that stuff to absorb how much ever stuff I can absorb from all of you. You all have been great, and I really appreciate you. And here's to 2025 and being an amazing year of life changing, love changing things for WBSU. So thank you
Yeah.
all, and I love you.
Amen. Amen. And we love you, and we're thankful to have you as part of that. Button went off premature.
It's
Come
okay.
on, stop, stop. Anyway, uh, Thank you, everyone. Been a great week. We'll be back next week, hopefully Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, bringing you more good news. The gospel is good news. It's not bad news. If you're preaching bad
Amen.
news, stop that. It's good news. But we hope this lesson has inspired you to dig deeper into the well of Father's mind within you. We love you. Have a great day. We'll see you next time. Bye bye, everyone.
Not yet. Hmm. This sounds like something you could play. I kind of thought it was something you did play. So that's good.
Hey, everybody. We'll see you next time. We love you so much. Um, don't forget to watch the television show. It's posted every Thursday night. The episode that's coming out on Grace Awakening Network, I also post on Facebook. Should have been doing all along. Talking about the book of Revelation. We're in chapter 4. Maybe it'll give you some things to think about. So we love you. We'll see you real soon. Bye bye, everyone.